So,
Mark, I just stopped the recording and restarted for the agenda. You might want to do the same on your recording.
okay, I was wondering about that, whether, okay. All right, so with that, I will now open the June agenda meeting. And I think the first thing would be to discuss the public hearing and our reaction.
Are you going to have a privilege of the floor, Mark?
Oh, that's a good point, Bill. We should have a privilege of the floor. So I will ask for, that's now. Thank you. So I will open privilege of the floor for anybody that would like to address the board.
Looks like Bill Podolka might like to address the board.
I didn't know if that was the old Zoom.
Yes,
blue
that
hand
is,
or
yeah,
new.
yeah. No, it's a new hand up. So I just want to say, so I was struck by Bruce's remarks about public input, because I was very sensitive to that on the planning board, and it's certainly an important issue in the town. And so, it's difficult because, of course, we do have spotty internet access, and I know that there's Wi-Fi access at the town hall and elsewhere. But Bruce, I wish you could reach out to some of those folks that feel shut out. If there's a way to get them to be able to participate in the Zoom meetings, that would be great. Any extra steps the town board could take. People still want to be cautious. I think I'm glad that the town board has instituted the video camera and recording stuff so you can do a hybrid meeting. I think that's really important because not everyone will be ready to come back to an in-person meeting in 5 days from now. But I think Bruce's point is well taken, that if there are folks in town that feel excluded despite your best efforts, a little more extra outreach is probably in order. And I don't really know the best ways to do that, but maybe Bruce knows who those folks are on that list. You guys must have a list. So anyway, I would encourage you to do everything you can to sort of figure out how to get those folks engaged. I don't think the town, I guess maybe it can expire soon, but you can't put off all resolutions, et cetera, for months on end. That's not going to be, I think, a feasible solution. So figure out a way to make people feel they're being heard and engaged. That's, I guess, my suggestion.
Thank you, Bill. I will address that briefly. And I did just I spoke with Catherine, and we did receive a petition asking us to forego any non-essential resolutions. And so our first question was what is a non-essential resolution? We don't really know what that would be. But the other thing is that it's important to understand that, the point of open meetings law is to allow the public to observe the workings of the board. And I know this sounds maybe, obvious or dull, but people are invited and very welcome to contact us by all kinds of other means. They can come to the town hall and talk with me. They can call us. They can email us. So I understand that people are feeling pent up at not being able to meet in person. But we do have lots of mechanisms for connecting them with us, and we invite that in, including snail mail if people want to write to us. So, but I hear you, we are very sensitive, and if people are having trouble connecting, then we want to hear about it and see if we can address that. And if any other board member wishes to speak to this issue, you're certainly welcome to. Tim?
I'll just add what I said the last time when the petition was delivered to the town board, that we've been operating virtually under the guidance of the governor's recommendations and law. And we've done our very, very best over the past year plus to make our meetings as widely known as and as accessible as possible. And we do now have AV equipment to extend that out into the future. So we appreciate the public's concern about this. We ask them for their patience. It might well be that not all board members are going to feel comfortable or able to return to in-person, even if the governor lifts the ban, and that's something that we've yet to figure out. So please continue to be patient with us. We're very concerned about this situation, but for us, public health comes first.
Yep, and we do have the new AV system operational. It seems to work very well. I'm looking forward to having both in-person and remote meetings. I think that'll be really cool. We've had good attendance by remote meetings. And we will be following, tomorrow the county is going to have a government operations meeting that is looking at considering their process in transitioning towards having in-person meetings. So, and I wrote a letter as co-chair of TCOG last week to Anna Kellis. This was following on a discussion at our last TCOG meeting, urging that modifications be made to open meetings law to allow members of public bodies to attend public meetings remotely. And they can now, but in order, by open meetings law, they have to allow the public to attend wherever they are. So if you're at your home, then you would have to advertise that and serve beer or whatever. So, so we're hoping that, this open meeting, this was before the current really facile technology we have for teleconferencing. And I'm really hoping that that the state will enact sort of new guidance and new protocols for how public meetings can happen that embrace teleconferencing. So, but anyway, I understand your concern, and we do want to hear from people if they're having trouble connecting with us. So. Any other comments for the board from privilege of the floor? Is Will back in the meeting? She said she just, oh, there she is. Okay, great. All right. So from there, I would suggest that we have a discussion about the public hearing that we've had tonight. I do, and I should have mentioned this at the in the public hearing, but we did receive a note from Don Barber, who was asking about the justification for a 14-month period, whether that's how he arrived at that, and was also urging that the restrictions be modified on what activities are subject to a moratorium. So with that, I will offer that at several people who spoke tonight spoke very, I think, astutely about the need for adequate time for the zoning commission to do this work for the town. I consider this a momentous time for the town of Caroline, considering a very important step in guiding the future of the town, and we want to do it right. So none of us on the board made up 14 months. Our town attorney recommended 14 months from his experience in this area. He felt that was, he didn't feel comfortable recommending less than that. But as you'll know, if you've read the law, you'll note that it's structured so that it can be retired. It's retired if the work of the zoning commission is completed. So I think it's responsible. I think by letting people know clearly that this is what we expect could happen, it allows people to plan their activities accordingly. And I think these moratoria, as one of the speakers said, these are this is an explicit tool that's designed to be implemented when towns are drafting new regulatory tools like zoning. So I feel very good about that. Those are my preliminary thoughts. Tim?
Yeah, can I just add, Mark, that it's important to point out that there is a waiver provision in this law, and residents can appeal for a waiver under certain conditions. And it's just important that that be understood. This isn't a cut and dried situation. There could be situations where it could be appropriate for the board to consider a waiver if it came across our desk.
That's right. And we have experience with that too, though. So, any other thoughts? Okay. So the question before us is whether we wish to vote on this local law tonight. Or not. So, and I think I'm comfortable voting on it tonight as is. I feel like it's a prudent measure that's been well considered. I'm interested in your thoughts as well.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. I see head nods from Catherine and Tim, and I think Cal too. Yeah. Okay, great. So with that, I will offer a resolution to adopt the land use moratorium extension of 14 months. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tim. Discussion. Okay, without further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. And the resolution passes 4-1. So duly adopted. Okay, thank you. So with that, we will proceed into the agenda meeting. And let's see, if people have additions or I hope you don't have deletions because there's not much in the agenda. But so Bob asked me to speak about the loader program that the information he provided. So I will talk about that briefly. But with that, I will open it up for committee reports.
I'll go. I guess I don't have a lot. Just a quick update to let folks know that Guy is currently reviewing the proposed contract with LaBerge Group and currently doing a markup of it. He had a few feedback points that he suggested, and so I've asked him to sort of make counter proposals, which is in process. I also wanted to answer a question that Tim had asked at the last meeting, which related to looking at a third site. We did raise that issue with LaBerge, and the feedback that we got is if they were to do that, sort of do the evaluation on 2 sites and then have to go back to a third site, it does potentially extend both the process and could make it a little harder. They said it's easier to work on sort of in phases, and so they recommended that we not do it that way.
On which 2 sites then are they going to evaluate?
Well, the 2 that are for certain are the current site that we have and the Perkins Road site. And so as part of the first step, they would also be looking to see, are there any other sites that we should consider, which could be things to acquire, but certainly our current site and Perkins will get full evaluation.
Great.
Yep.
John, I was, in the contract you sent, there was that attached proposal. I think you called it a sketch plan or something like that from LaBerge. So what you just said, I think I'm reading it wrong or something, but there's some language in there that confused me because it seemed to say that they weren't going to look at the current site. But
yeah, no, that's not the case.
So yeah, my concern. So anyway, I wonder if that.
Shoot me over like the section that is coming across that way, and I'll definitely make sure that we clarify it.
Okay.
But we've been really clear with them that the current site is absolutely one of the sites we want evaluated.
Great. That's great.
Yeah. Cool. That's all I've got for today, unless Cal wants to add anything to that.
No.
John, I was going to ask you. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think Ben on the team sent a thing today that had like an information request.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's something the committee's working on or something.
Will be, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Great. Great.
Yep.
Great. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Nothing more exciting to add, but we're moving forward, which is good.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Shall I just report on the zoning commission,
Sure.
which did meet last Tuesday with the new planner? And the planner was due to come and do a site visit to the town. Sorry, I have terrible allergies. This week, which I assumed happened in the next zoning commission meeting is next Tuesday at 7:30. There had been some discussion, which I had hoped to talk to Catherine about before the meeting. I think there's still some discussion about what the status of the remaining planning board is and whether it would make sense to simply assign the entire planning board to this incredibly complicated process. So I don't know if Catherine, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I guess, and I'm really just my deepest apologies for being so late.
Don't let it happen again.
I have to try very hard. So the report for the planning board, I suppose, is just dovetails with this in terms of the completion of the solar, siting law, and now really completion of this battery thing. And so the question, outstanding question is what Tim just shared, which is what to do with the remaining people. And Mark and I spoke briefly about it. I don't know if Mark, there was like follow up with Bill following that, or I think you had spoken with Bill before
I
we
don't
had spoken, and then, so we're, I guess, Tim, I don't have an answer, but I agree. I mean, I suspect that from your tone that it would be a good thing to have all the other people on the zoning commission, if that's where you're, what you're thinking. I totally agree with that. I'm not hearing from the planning board that there's anything specific that is waiting in the wings. Like if there was, then I think it's fine for the 3 remaining people to continue with that, but we don't have that to my knowledge. So if that continues, I would personally very much advocate for all hands on deck, given the enormity of what we're doing and the fact that the zoning, the zoning commission work, and more broadly speaking, like land use regulation is the work of a planning body. So I guess I would, advocate for that. Mark, I don't know if you have
Yeah,
any other thoughts about that.
I hear you on that. I've gone both ways on this, but I do think that, yeah, it seems to me to make sense given the task at hand, that it makes sense to have more hands and more voices in the group's work. So I'm inclined to recommend that.
Many hands make light work,
That's right.
Right.
or lighter work.
Oh, and I think we had mentioned, was it worth talking to the planner? I mean, we can decide independent from that anyway, but if the planner has a specific thought about numbers of people or what the tasks are, or
Well, I mean, I think that that's more the board's purview than the outside planners. And I mean, I also have gone back and forth about this, but I think that looking at summer and with the communication today and interior communication today with the planning commission about vacation schedules, I would like for the board to be able to facilitate really keeping this mission on track. And if it meant that then we'd have a strong cohesion of people throughout the vacation season, that might not be a bad thing. If we were going to do it, I would recommend doing it now rather than waiting, because the commission is really just about to begin its most serious work. And if we were thinking about it, even if we're going to wait till next Wednesday to make these appointments, we could give a heads up, and the 3 members of the planning board could make sure to attend the next zoning commission meeting.
If it makes for a better team, it seems it's a prudent move.
Yeah. And I just, that Department of State document recommends, about that. This would take the zoning commission to 10 members, and that document recommends, 9 or so. So it's pretty close. It's not huge compared to what they recommend. So
I think the commission would, in this case, benefit from the extensive experience of these members of the zoning commission in different facets.
right. I agree with that too. And just to
So
refresh
it's
people who don't
negligible.
know, the
It's
people
not
who
just
are left, Bill. and-
token ad.
Am I frozen? No.
We can
Okay.
hear you still and see.
Sorry, it was like very choppy. The members who are remaining, for anyone who's just, to speak to your point about experience, it's Will, Bill, and now John Comstock. So, I mean, it's a really robust, group of people.
great. Okay. So do we want to consider that and make a recommendation at next week's business meeting? Would that be prudent? Are you ready to do it now, or how would you like?
I think we should do it now. I think Tim's point is well taken, that let's get this, if we're going to do it, let's get it going.
I think Bruce, did you want to say something? Or you,
I'm not supposed to, but once again, I would say that this went out before, and maybe there's some people in the public that would like to be on this commission. Just saying.
Well, Bruce, I would just respond to you that in terms of the makeup of the zoning commission, the board from the very, very beginning considered empowering the entire planning board with this charge, which is recommended by state law. We didn't do so at the time because the planning board was still working very, very diligently and hard on the solar siding law and then the subsequent battery law. So we wanted to make sure that that work got done first. So we decided to move 4 members of the planning board initially onto the zoning commission with the anticipation that we'd wait and see what happened subsequently.
Right, I read the same thing. And it said that you could appoint the planning board. It didn't say that it was recommended.
Right.
And that, you know, so like I said, I would recommend that you have as much more public people that would get involved, because you don't have a demographic that represents the town at this point in time, as far as across the board, as
Right.
far as I'm concerned.
Bruce,
Okay.
I can address that a bit in the sense that, in fact, one of the other reasons why we did not have the planning board be the body was specifically, in fact, to address what you're addressing, which is to have the broadest, cast the widest net and have the broadest representation of people, and say at the outset, this is not something that is the planning board. This is something that we want to extend widely to the town, and we are inviting people widely, and that enabled more people who are not already engaged in planning work to come forth, and that's how we built that body. So so I'm agreeing with that. What you're sharing is precisely why it went the way it went. Does that
Yeah,
make
so
more
were
sense?
there some people, so were there some people that weren't picked that to be on the zoning commission from the public that
So
would be interested?
I just want to follow. I do want to close this back into a board discussion. So thanks,
Okay.
Bruce. I understand
Yep.
your point.
Yep,
I do want to point out that what I remember from the Department of State document is that one reason for engaging the planning board with this work is that they have a strong connection to the comprehensive plan work. So, you know, I think that's important. So, but so I think we're kind of at an optimum sort of size for this group, and we have a good mix of of planning board members and at-large members. So. Other thoughts? Shall we?
I mean, it might be that we might want to wait just until Wednesday and at least consult the chair of the zoning commission, just so that there's an understanding that this is happening
I think that's
before we
good.
vote on it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I agree with that. That's a very good idea. So we will put that on for next week's
See what Gene thinks.
agenda. Yeah. Great. Very good.
Well, it's more just it's a more of a courtesy that I'm worried about than anything else.
I
Yeah.
think it's definitely worthwhile. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Just a little bit of stuff from highway. Bobby cleaned up some excess stuff and got $56,000 for the town from an old dump truck, an old steam shovel, an old gravel crusher, and just some things are sitting around that needed to get moved. And that was a pleasant surprise for that kind of return for stuff that was just sitting around. We're going to have a recognition ceremony for Les Dean for his 52 years to this point of service to the town. We'll have to just do a barbecue someday in the next month. And so keep an eye on your email for, an event to recognize Les. I'm sure he'd appreciate town board members that can show up, or just pass the word to people you know that might be interested. Next Monday, they're going to start work on that washout that on Central Chapel Road. They've got some lined up, some work with the county, and hopefully that'll go well. So I think that's kind of news from the asphalt.
Tim?
Yeah, I think I'd like to make a report about the court and the justices as liaison to the court. I've had a couple of communications with the justices and tried to remind them of our request for the data that we've been asking for. And today received an email from, from Justice Reinbold, reiterating his opposition to this and his charge that we were being unethical in asking for it. And during the same time period, there was a situation regarding the records room and the town hall, which the court has been using to store records at our at our invitation that John was involved in. And there appear to be differing points of view about the role of the town and its relationship to town records and town spaces. So what the justices have asked to come back and speak to us about their salaries next Wednesday. I'm at the point where I think it would be most helpful, instead of doing that, for us to convene a meeting with the two justices, me, Mark, our town attorney, to some clear legal clarity about what the parameters are, both for what the board can consider in relationship to judges' salaries, and the parameters for the town of Caroline's role vis-a-vis court offices, spaces, and what we share and how to negotiate that sharing. So my proposal is that Mark and I set up this meeting, and hopefully we can come with guys and their chief, I forget his name, the supervising judge, to really a much clearer sense of what the legal parameters for all this, so we can just cut out all the noise and move forward. So that's my proposal for this. And I haven't discussed this with the justices yet, but since this has been coming up in the past 2 weeks, I just thought I'd bring it up tonight, because I did request to meet with us next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if people have thoughts about that. It would be helpful to hear.
I'll just say, I do agree with that, Tim, and that's what I proposed after last budget season that we do. And so I do think it's time to do that. So I think it'd be great.
I feel a little bit differently. I think the conversation is essential. I agree with that. I think it could be with those same players in the context of a full board. Full board has to ultimately make a decision on salaries, right? And as we do all matters of budget. And since I think it's been a conversation between the board and the judges, as Tim says, for 3 years, I think it would be helpful for all of us to be able to hear the input and be part of the conversation. I would certainly like to be part of it.
I will just add that this is my own personal interest, obviously, but given that I'm new to this, I would appreciate being involved. And then that makes, even if it's just me, for me, it's 3, and like there's only 5 of us. So I guess I'm agreeing with John.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I was just trying to avoid was the yet again, the circus atmosphere that we experienced the last time we were presented. But I'm totally cool with the entire board doing this. Of course, it would then be a public meeting, and it would be a very different atmosphere. And my concern is that we have enough time with the attorneys present to go through the process reasonably and rationally without the fanfare of public speeches. And if you see what I'm trying to accomplish, but I mean, we can clearly do this with the entire board.
Is it fair for it to be executive?
I was wondering about that too, Cal. I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
Right.
It
we'd
seems
have
it
to
should
find out.
be.
I would think it should be myself, but maybe not. I don't know. We'd have to find out. We'd have to ask Guy, I guess.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. In some ways, it's about salaries, but on the other hand, salaries are public information, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But there might, yeah, but it, yeah.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be about personnel evaluation. What we're trying to do is
Yeah.
get legal clarity about what what our rights are,
Yeah,
what
I
their
kind of
rights
agree with
are,
that.
etc.
I'm really happy. I mean, I'd be happy for the whole board to attend. I just thought it might be lower key with fewer of us, but I actually, I don't know. I like the suggestion John made, and so,
I'm fine either way, frankly,
Not worried about the kind of behavior piece. That's, I have no hesitation about our board's participation in that regard.
I mean, I would recommend that if we do this, we hold a special board meeting to do it so that there's ample time. The problem that we've had in discussing this all along is it gets squeezed into very complicated business and agenda meetings and
that's a great idea, Tim.
makes it very frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that, Tim.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
give it the focus
where we
it
have
needs.
space, right, exactly.
The other advantage of that is it will allow us to accommodate the schedules of the supervising judge and Guy, so as well as the
Yep.
justices. So that's great. Cool. Great. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks. So let's move on this and see if we can finally get some resolution here.
I think so. I think that's good.
Because going back and forth with emails, this isn't productive. It's just not working. I tried it again and it doesn't appear to be the case.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So I guess I will just mention here that Bob spoke to me today. He sent us a request for a loader purchase. And so he didn't provide any further information, but he felt like what he provided was substantial, and he feels like that this is a justifiable equipment purchase at this point in time. So I told him I would mention it to you all. He did ask if we could give a yes or no tonight, and that he would not be at the meeting. So yeah, I printed out the documents. The loader's like 188,000. Get a trade in on a 2004 loader, I believe, for 30 or 36,000. And so yeah, that's what he asked. I said I would mention it.
But Mark, does this mean that Bobby hasn't or is not going to be presenting us with the equipment rotation schedule that we asked for, which I hope is a reasonable request, just so we can have a clear eye on what's going on?
I really wish he was here to speak for himself, because we do talk. I think he feels like he's given us a spreadsheet with you know, I think he's given us something that he feels is a plan. But I do wish I think it'd be better if he could speak for himself. So yeah, at some point in the meeting, I did work on this last week, and I came up, you know, with something. Before, we'd been just sort of populating an Excel spreadsheet in columns over time with different pieces of equipment, and it was pretty mind-boggling. So I came up with, I found something that I thought was really helpful, and maybe I'll try to share it now if I can actually do that. I think this is it. Do you see that very brightly colored spreadsheet? So, this doesn't have all of the equipment, but the principle here is you put each piece of equipment its new cost, and then you define its rotation cycle. And so these numbers are just mine that I stuck in here, but you can play with them, and it's really helpful. So, and this is the resale price as a percentage of the new price. And so I just put those in here. So like for snow plows with a 5-year rotation, Ed Fairbrother told me they were getting about 60% of the cost. So you put that in, and then that tells you, it calculates. So then with that information, this is set up to calculate the resale value, and then the cost new minus the resale value gives you the replacement cost. And then you can divide by the rotation cycle to get the annual replacement cost for the lifetime of that equipment. And so, I mean, this is preliminary, but it did help me, like for 5 snow plows, 2 1-tons and a loader. So with putting a 5-year rotation for the snow plow, it gives a budget amount of $110,000. I know Ed Levine in Lansing, they do a 14-year rotation, and I don't know what the resale is there, but I put a 10th down.
Mhm.
So if you put a 10th down, then it calculates that. So if you can play with this, and as you get information on resale value and stuff, you can kind of see. I think it helps visualize what your budgetary lift is going to be. So.
Mark, just a quick question, make sure, just
Mark,
want to
where
make
did you
sure.
get this? Where did you get scrap from?
Go ahead, John. Was that John?
Well, I started, then Tim and I kind of started at the same time. So Tim, go ahead, and then I'll follow
I was
you.
just going to ask Mark where this graph came from, whether you developed it or where did it come from?
I developed this. I Googled up a 2012 Cornell Local Roads training presentation, and I saw this kind of analysis. So then I just decided to make a spreadsheet. So.
Cool. Question, just so I make sure I'm following the logic flow. So the 92 in the total, the 92,589 would be the annual budget lift if we were to go with a 14-year renewal cycle. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Yep.
And so the number we saw previously, where was the 5-year cycle, and I think you estimated 60%. I mean,
right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's really fun to do this.
Yep. And so that would say that so we would be looking at a lift of about 110 a year. So
right.
About 18,000 more than the other scenario. Okay.
That's right.
Yep.
So
Got it.
Yeah, that's right. And so the the one thing I will point out is that, so this doesn't say anything, this doesn't have any information, although it could be incorporated, on repair costs over time. So
I'm glad you said that, actually, because I think if you look at what our repair costs are across our vehicles, I suspect in most years they would exceed the $18,000 difference between the 14 and the 5-year scenario, as an example. So that could be interesting to look at.
I
And most
agree. I
most
think it would be-
warranties are around 5 years.
But I think it would be really important to look at that and see what the shape of the curve is. And that would really help us understand, how we want to manage the equipment. So,
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would be willing to say we should pay $18,000 a year more if it's saving us $40,000 in repair costs, right?
Yeah.
If
and it would be nice to know what the,
right, sort of
what it
what the intersection point is.
yeah, exactly.
Mark, are you introducing this as, this is just a general look at all the things, so to speak? We're not talking specifically about Bobby's question right now, which is the loader.
No, you're exactly right, Catherine. This isn't, you're right. I've diverged. But I did want to mention this tonight, and I thought since we were talking about equipment, and this kind of segues to something Tim and I discussed it earlier, and I think it's a great idea that it might be prudent for us to have a little committee, a capital planning committee that of people who like to play with this kind of stuff, and and really it would help Bob, it would help us, and so I'd like to do something
Yeah.
like that.
Megan Barber started to work on that concept a couple of years ago.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
And so there might be work that could be built upon. And I like that idea because I think we've acknowledged for a couple of years that a deficiency for a lot of boards is capital planning, right? And so if we could get a structure in place to manage that, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I don't think any of that gets to the more immediate issue on the table, which is the loader, but it's still important.
Yeah.
But I do recall, Mark, from our last meeting that there was some question that you and Bob were having about about the funding and when to start it. And there was some question that was going to be asked of the bank. And I don't recall the answer to that. You may well have sent it out to us, but I'm just not recalling it.
I did send an email out with answers to Bob's questions.
Yeah,
So,
I thought you had too, but I don't
yeah.
remember what they are.
And
And that
I'll
was for
just,
the truck that was already approved, not the loader, which is the new question and request.
Right.
To be
That's
clear.
That's
right.
true.
Right.
That's right. We're jumping around. So, but I will just let you know. Well, so do we want to finish the discussion of the loader maybe first, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
we should do that.
Okay, let's do that. So just to go back to the loader, I'll just say, I just introduced this because I thought it was intriguing and fun, and maybe we can start a capital planning committee. So, and I think everybody is in favor of that from what I heard. Is that, oh, and I should have stopped sharing because, okay. So, so can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So going back to the loader question, how would you like to proceed with that? To me, the question is, I would have liked to have known, what are current maintenance costs for the loader. Bob said it is a 2004 machine. I don't know, how these things age. And, it is in his realm and all. So, but I would have liked to have had a little more information. But Catherine.
I guess two things come up for me. One is, I mean, a general question of, do we as a board have enough information to say yes or no to this request? It sounds like we don't, which is why there was additional information requested. Then the second, path would be, given that we don't have that information, or does that change anything? And, otherwise it sounds like the answer would be no, based on not having enough information. And then I guess the other question I have is this a reasonable decision to make when the highway superintendent is not in attendance? And if the answer to that is no, then we either defer this to another time when Bobby's here, or, those are the two things I guess I have thoughts
Thank
on.
you. Thank you. Yep. I concur. Any other thoughts?
Does he have the money in his budget to buy it?
Well, I clarified that we have enough money in various town reserves to cover this. But this is a separate question about whether we think this is a good move for highway capital planning at this time. And I understand that Bob knows a lot more about this equipment than I do. So for a lot of that, I have to refer to him. But I also agree with the points that Catherine made, and I especially feel like it would be Bob should be here when we make the decision. I would prefer that a lot.
So the answer, I think, to Cal's question then is no. There isn't in the highway budget specifically money to cover this. True?
There is, so
He needs 96,000 to buy it.
This year's budget is 180,000.
Mhm.
And in answer to the next item that I'm going to answer, the first payment on the installment plan went out today for $50,000. So that takes it to like 130,000. And I believe there's about, if I remember, 37,000 in the highway equipment reserve fund. So that puts it up to like 167,000. So it's close. And I looked at the fund balance in highway is $488,000. That's unreserved fund balance. It's it's like 28% of budgeted expenditures. So the point I made when Bob was concerned about managing his equipment line in order to have money to make this purchase is that the town has adequate, if we deem that a good idea, that we have the funds to make that purchase. And
that didn't quite get at my question mark. There was a
Okay.
lot of verbiage, but I didn't
Well-
glean the answer out of it.
okay, I
Let
don't
me
know if you're
rephrase.
speaking specifically about the equipment line.
I'm
So if you
speaking-
say, does the equipment line have enough money in it? It's about what, $20,000 short.
Got it. Thank you. I was looking for boil it down. So basically, if the price of this loader were $20,000 less, Bob would have enough money to do it.
It's more complicated than that because, as Cal mentioned, he sold over $50,000 of highway equipment today.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, that can be used just to support highway equipment purchases. So that basically washes out the installment purchase today, leaving his budget at 180,000 in the
Okay.
highway equipment line. So
And what's the lift on the loader again?
188.
So what I'm hearing is with that wash, he's potentially 8,000 shy of it.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to remind everyone that a new 1 ton is being purchased this year also. and that Bob did ask for an answer tonight. Respectfully.
Mhm. On the loader, Jesse?
Yes, on the loader.
Mhm.
But the 1 ton, has a 1 ton already been budgeted for? I thought it had been.
Yeah, I would like that clarification too, because that muddied things for me.
The 1 ton? So I mean, it's, so I mean, yeah, so the 1 ton is an additional purchase, so.
So,
I'm gonna
okay.
ask a really ignorant question. Is the 1 ton the same as a snowplow, or are we talking
No.
about two different things?
It's,
Forgive me, I don't.
yeah, I know, I know the feeling, so.
So the thing we've been talking about the installment plan and reiterating that like it's gonna be fine and we're gonna prepay and all that, that's a snowplow and that's done. That is not in this conversation,
Right.
right? So now we're
Right.
also needing to answer the question about the loader
Mhm.
as to whether or not it's a yes with the information we have. And somehow there's another truck involved, which impacts things in some way.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the question I have, and I think it gets back to Tim's question, is where is the funding for the 1 ton coming from? If it's not already budgeted for, it would be the equipment line, would it not?
It would be the equipment line, yeah.
So
but-
really, and I don't remember the price tag on a 1 ton, but I've got to believe it's probably easily over 100,000, probably over 150.
No,
No?
it's, I think-
87.
Oh, no.
it's 87,
Okay.
but there's a fair trade-in price, and I can't remember what it is. It might be, I think it's in the 30s.
Okay. So bringing the price down to about 50-ish.
Mhm.
All right. What I'm trying to get to is a bottom line number.
I
would love to, yeah, I'd love to give Highway what they feel they need to do their jobs,
Mhm.
but I want to do it responsibly and I want to do it informed, right?
Mhm.
And so what I'm hearing is it looks like the lift on the 1 ton is about 50,000, and it sounds like with the money currently in the equipment fund, he would be shy 8 grand on the loader. So let's say 65,000 is, and I realize that's not exact math. I'm putting a little
Something
room
like
on
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, do we want to invest $65,000 in this? That's what it boils down to. And if so, from where?
36.
I'm leaning toward yes, for if that's worth anything. But
I mean, I'm
You're
just
leaning-
frustrated.
I didn't follow that, John. You're leaning towards what?
I'm leaning toward let's do it. Let's use this as an opportunity to decrease our repair costs and then enact a committee that puts a capital plan together so that we have a strategy moving forward.
I mean, I'm just a little bit frustrated because it seems like it would have been so simple for us to be able to work with a clear replacement plan in order to make this decision. And as I've always said, I'm very in favor of upgrading this equipment. I'm just kind of beating my head here about the process. And I mean, I've talked to Bobby about this since I think December. So I just thought this was going to be an easy thing for us to do because he did it for the snowplows, just to give us a planned replacement schedule. And if we were to agree to this loader, I'm not going to be willing to put another cent into highway equipment until I have that plan firm or until a committee comes up with the plan. Because I just think we're backing ourselves into a wall.
Mhm. I think so.
which doesn't mean I wouldn't maybe vote for this tonight, but I just feel like, what the heck?
I feel, I mean, Bob asked for an answer tonight, but I think for one thing, I would like to sharpen the budget numbers we just went over to present to you guys before we do that. And I mean, I think waiting till next week's meeting is not that big. I think we should do that. That's, I just think waiting till next week's meeting is I don't, you know, yeah, I just think that's warranted. But
Is there any opportunity cost to us if we do that? Like, what I mean by that is, you know, some kind of deal is lost, it will cost us more money or anything like that?
not of which I'm aware.
Okay. Then I would be inclined to agree with you. I don't think it causes any harm to, in fact, I think it's prudent and smart to make sure we're working with real numbers.
I think the vendor has given us a couple extensions on the price, and I think the vendor's at the point where, well, if somebody else comes along with a deal with the cash, they're going to take that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the opportunity cost I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, it seemed to get turned around more to the opportunity costs where, you know, what we saw as our budget.
All right. So are we in agreement that we'll consider this at next?
I mean, I would be comfortable with working with real figures.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe Bobby gave us those figures and we just don't understand, which is why it would be helpful for him to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I had thought that the 1 ton was already taken away from the budget, you know, agreed upon purchase taken away, and that the figures that we were left with was excess cash, but apparently that's not the case.
No, I don't think so.
Does anyone know
be.
either,
It
maybe
could
even
be.
Jesse or sorry, Jesse, go ahead if you're speaking.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, it could be that it has been taken out. I just didn't want anyone to forget about that purchase also. I don't know either way if it's been considered or not in this year's budget.
Because I was just gonna ask either if, and this is hard because it's like you know, like by proxy for Bob, but like if either Jesse or Cal, maybe, does anyone know if Bob, given that he requested an answer, is there preference for waiting a week if it increases the likelihood that the answer is yes? or is the timeliness or no the priority? Because the fact is, like, maybe for some reason an answer is helpful, in which case we can provide an answer. It sounds like it's probably more likely to not be in his favor if we vote right now versus next week. I mean,
I think the timeliness of it, like Cal said, is because of the vendor, and that 188,000 purchase could become, you know, another 20,000 on top of that or something. I mean, no, we don't know. So
I thought we had a firm 3-month
Yeah, we did.
figure on that.
You're right, Tim.
The question is, when does the 3 months expire?
It's still a month out at least. So you're exactly right.
Well, with that being the case, then I think really all we're trying to decide is, are we willing to flex a little on the extra money that would be short on this to make this happen? We do know that things are going up right now. They'll come back down eventually, probably in the fall. But we know that, materials and a lot of things are definitely going up. So the question becomes, is this an opportunity to lock in at a good deal that will, serve us well in the future or not? I think with another month to go before we actually have to make an answer, I think waiting till next week to lock down those firm numbers is wise. But I would say we need to make the decision next week. I think we should put a vote on the agenda. I think we should have the numbers in advance of the meeting. I don't want to sit here in the meeting and talk numbers without having had the chance to look at the numbers, right? Because I can form questions if I've looked at them. A couple of days before would be fine. I don't need it like tomorrow. I think that will help us, and then I think we can, give Bobby a well thought out answer and feel good about our decision, whatever it is.
Thank you, John. Spot on. Yeah,
Sure.
I totally agree. Okay,
I agree.
that sound good, Cal?
Yep. Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. Thanks everybody for agonizing that with me. So, great. Let's see. I guess trying to think if there's, so I guess I'll offer the approval of the minutes. Are we ready to go there? Approval of the
Yep.
minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, minutes of May 12th and the 19th. So any thoughts for Jesse? I sent a couple little tweaks earlier, but minor things. All good? Okay, with that, those two sets of minutes are approved. Thank you. And agenda items for next week.
Loader purchase.
I was just gonna say that.
Have we discussed that recently? Okay, so loader purchase, okay.
Discussion on the zoning planning board members.
That's right.
Yep.
It was brought to my attention that the resolution that we offered regarding the planner, the Nan's Zolstenberg, is that right? Can't remember. I'm spacing it a minute, but anyway, we actually, the resolution, the resolve stated that we recommended them, but we didn't actually pass a resolution that was specific about contracting with her firm. So I guess to clean that up, I'll offer a resolution on that, a simple resolution.
So do you need a second on the clean it up resolution for the resolution?
Say that again,
Are
Catherine.
you offering a new resolution to clean up the other resolution?
Yeah, or to finish it off, exactly. Yeah.
So I'll second that if you need that.
Okay. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that next week with the business meeting.
And we, just to clarify, we all agreed that we want we want to invite the justices to meet with us at next week's board meeting, but we will try to schedule a special meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
great. And I will note that so someone in attendance asked about the participation by non-board members in board meeting discussions, and that's always a discretionary thing that the presider has the option of inviting if he feels that's warranted. So, and so we do that. We do that from time to time when people we feel like they might have input that's germane to the discussion. All right. Anything else for tonight? So hopefully, let's see.
Vouchers next week
Yeah.
is me and Cal, is that right?
Sounds
Me-
good.
Is it me and Cal or me and John?
I'm feeling like it might be my turn.
Who did it with you, Catherine?
I think Cal did it with Catherine.
Oh, then it's
Yeah.
us, John.
Yeah, Cal and I
Yep.
did last time.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, John.
Great. Thank you.
I'll do it for you, Tim, if you want.
Oh, yeah. And
There'll be plenty of time in the future for me to ask you to do that.
Okay,
So-
I enjoy doing them.
okay. So there are two other things that I'm realizing that I do want to put on the agenda for next week. One is a discussion of in-person meetings and how we're going to go there. So I should have more information by tomorrow. And so
Good.
we'll have a rigorous discussion about that. And the other thing that because a couple of people have asked about the petition that was submitted. So I think it might make sense to have an agenda item where we formally address the petition so people understand that we did receive it and hear their concerns and what we're doing about it. So.
And I guess for the purpose of the recording now, that just to reference that we did address we can address it again, but that it was not unaddressed, that it was addressed in our last meeting at the very beginning of the meeting. So if anyone wants to see that or listen to that, that's the very beginning of the last recording.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And just to add on to that, there were other elements in that petition as well that seem subsidiary to the open meeting issue, which we also did address point by point at the last meeting.
Yes, we did address that, and it was pointed out to me later by the town clerk that I hadn't noticed it, but there was like there was a line through those other two, so I think the petitioners meant to take those off of the petition, but I'm not sure. I mean, somebody had those concerns; it was worth addressing them, and so great. So. Great. Anything else on people's minds before we depart for the evening?
Nope, all good.
Great. Well, with nothing further, I will offer a motion to adjourn. Seconded by John, and all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Great. Okay.
And peace out.
Peace out. That's right. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Good seeing
night.
everyone.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Yeah.
See you.
Take care.
Hey, John,
Yes.
wait, let me stop the
And
recording.
also-
Okay.
Hold on.